Parenting pause this week. We're going to talk about how to talk to the feelings instead of the story. This is one of the biggest ones that I learned in Pure Joy and, in my parenting, that often I would get so enamored and so into my daughter's story or anyone's story that I didn't actually talk to the feelings that were driving the story. Now, this is really easy to do with our children because, let me tell you, children make up big stories. Their stories are not always true. I like to say, I don't really think any stories are true. Stories are the conclusion that we come to about an event. Stories often have some practical truth to them, but often they elaborate. We all elaborate on our stories, especially if they have a strong feeling driving them. And then they can get quite dramatic, quite intense, and quite entertaining. I always loved what Byron Katie said about her story. She goes, I love my stories as long as I don't believe them. So I learned very early to listen to my daughter's stories, but not to actually believe them and get invested, such as if she came home and said, Johnny hit Billy today at school and the teacher yelled at him. I might get all up in arms and I'm like, wonder what happened. I need to go talk to the teacher. And how was she with you? Or she might say, the teacher yelled at me today because I didn't do what I wanted her. I didn't do what she wanted me to do. And man, I would get so caught in the story. And then I would be all charged up with a feeling and I would want to go take care of it. And I would want to go fix that story. I'd want to go talk to the mother or the teacher. And I started recognizing that actually what was happening as my daughter was telling me the story was that she was actually giving me her feeling. She was throwing me the hot potato, as I say. I was attuning to her feeling. And now I was actually taking over the feeling and wanting to believe the story and go fix it, change it. So when I got clear on this, I started going, well, what would it be like to hear the story, say, well, of course you think that happened, or of course that's how it felt to you, or of course that's what you thought, like to really honor and say, of course I hear you, and yet to actually talk to the feeling. And that required me actually feeling the feelings I was having as my daughter was telling the story, or a friend or anyone, or Facebook or the news. When I read about something, I immediately tap into the feeling. And if I can stay with that feeling, especially in my safe seat, and talk to that feeling, such as, honey, of course, this feels intense, because it was usually intense for my daughter. It was overwhelming being in a social environment. She's very introverted. So often her stories were quite grand about how huge the situations were, but it was really that she was feeling overwhelmed. She was feeling invaded. She was feeling all of these feelings that I could talk to and say, oh, honey, that sounds really, really intense. And then I could be with those feelings instead of talking about the story, trying to get more details about the story, trying to fix the story so she wouldn't have those feelings. I was able to start sitting with my feelings of feeling powerless and helpless because I wasn't there with her at school. I couldn't help her. I couldn't support her. So I had lots of feelings about, not being there, and then judgments about how someone else was treating my daughter. But it was really that I felt powerless, and I was. So when I could just sit in that, I'm feeling powerless, and then talk to myself, say, honey, of course you're feeling powerless. You weren't there. Then I would soften, and then I might actually be able to talk to my daughter's sense of feeling powerless, and maybe ask her some questions like, did you feel like, you didn't have any power there and it was really hard? Tell me more about that. Tell me more about how it felt when you watched Johnny hit Billy, or when the teacher yelled at you. Ooh, what happened inside? What feelings came up inside of you? And then you can see as I even talk about this, I start to soften. Where when I'm talking about the story, it's really intense and I talk really loud and I want to hear more details and I want to fix that story. But when I really relax back and tend to my feelings, and then I meet my daughter's feelings, then I can really talk to those feelings, honoring them, offering them love, without having to believe the story that the feelings drive. All right, lovies, I hope you have a great week this week. Parenting Paused.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Parenting Paused. If you enjoyed the episode, do me a favor and share it with your mama friends. You can also leave a review wherever you listen, which will support getting the Pure Joy message out. Come on over to the Pure Joy Parenting Practice Facebook page or join me on Instagram to hear more. And don't forget to download your free copy of the Safe Seat course on the Pure Joy website. And while there, check out the offerings page to go deeper in the Pure Joy work.